Alright, today we're going to be jumping back into the Bitcoin price action along with the altcoin market, giving some if-then scenarios on what we need to be watching out for and what we can expect depending on what price does, right? We're not trying to predict the future here. We're just trying to react to what price does and plan accordingly. So I've drawn out some levels, honed in my thesis on what I think for the altcoin market in particular right now. Now let's go ahead, starting off here with Bitcoin. You'll notice I kind of changed around my charts a little bit. Over here on the left now, these volume profiles are wider time frames. There are 3 and the 4 month versus over here on the levels indicator, I've gone ahead and put in the 1, 2 weekly and daily volume profiles within here. We got every time frame for our volume levels, and I've used all of the volume data along with our Fibonacci levels to mark out these 2 boxes in here, which will be our levels of resistance. And you can see if we jump in here to an hourly time frame, we have already tapped the first one, and that was sitting right at the 618, and that is actually a 618 pulled from the lows. You know, normally if you're looking for resistance, you pull swing high, swing low. That's your resistance. But what we want to do here is, since we broke the golden pocket to the downside, we want to see if this gets flipped back into support or if it does flip into resistance. So this is swing low, swing high, golden pocket of the whole range, and this is pertinent to get flipped into support. But it's not to say we can't pull back before doing so. Do not be surprised if we do make some sort of double bottom formation here before coming up, flipping this stuff into support, because I'm sure there's a lot of late longers in the market. It's certainly not time to go ahead and FOMO long, even though I do believe this is a good low within here, and there's a good chance we don't break the low. There is a good chance we come back down. We could even potentially sweep it, that sort of thing. Although I will say, if we go ahead and break below this $56,000 low, you're done for. Okay, Bitcoin cannot really come any lower than right now in price action. If we did, it's pretty much guaranteed we're going to 50k, and at that point, once we start sweeping 50k, I mean, grabbing the liquidity below this, you're completely changing market structure and it's over for the bull run. So we definitely do want the 886 on these fibs to hold. We don't want to be losing structure here, and so far so good when it does come to that. But let's see if we can go ahead, flip this golden pocket into support. I do fully expect we do so though, because we do have our big liquidity to the upside is sitting at this box up higher. So what I'm planning to happen here, right, this is if then scenarios, if price is to come up here, which is very likely because liquidity, right, it's likely to grab this, you know, poor highs within here, big inefficiency in the chart, likely to go ahead and grab that stuff. You know, you also have some volume levels within there as well. Assuming we do grab this level, it's probably going to act as resistance. We'll probably swing fail those liquidity levels. We'll probably pull back here, and then in this scenario right here, when we do pull back, I want the golden pocket to then go ahead, flip into support, flip these volume levels into support. And assuming we can flip the golden pocket back into support after squeezing on up, this is my signal that we are officially going to all-time highs. And I really do not see a case in which we flip this into support, come on up, make a higher high, right? That's the important thing. We can't just like bounce off it a little bit then fail. If we can go ahead, claim clear support and make a higher high, I do believe at this point all of these liquidity levels up higher are going to get squeezed, and we're going to go straight to all-time highs. That $75,000 level will get claimed pretty quickly in this scenario, and we will go ahead and get up to this next box of resistance that I have. And this level is very arbitrary. It's just based off of liquidity. Clearly we don't have any volume up there. That's price discovery, but we will be wanting to watch this, because if we do see a ton of euphoria in the markets, we see meme coins go into billions, we see news headlines about the Ethereum ETF, whatever it is, whatever catalyst they're using, when we get up to this high, if it does look like we're seeing sentiment of tops in the market, this is a big level for me. That Wyckoff upthrust after distribution, this is what I'm going to be watching out for, and when we get up there, we definitely need to be staying vigilant in the markets. But over here on Bitstamp now, if we go ahead and look at previous price action on Bitcoin before we do have massive bull runs, I know this is what everyone's looking at, is we do have somewhat similar of a fractal that we're creating now, and this did happen right around the all-time highs of a previous bull market of that 2017 bull run, right? So in 2020, when we go ahead and break those previous all-time highs and go into the bull run, we do see what you would consider to be Wyckoff reaccumulation, where we do find some resistance up in here before going ahead and making our next run up. This is where the violent move to the upside happens, and this is what everyone is hoping for, and why people are calling for those $200,000 to $300,000 price targets. So is it possible we are right here in the cycle? And while I don't think it's a probability, I do think it's possible. I'm not going to rule it out of the equation, and how we'll know when it comes to it is essentially Bitcoin should not deviate to all-time highs. It should not find resistance up at this box right here. If we are comparing it on a fractal basis, Bitcoin should just rip to the upside, and I won't even have time to say to sell because it will already be at $80,000 to $100,000. And at that point, I know it's not Wyckoff upthrust after distribution because Wyckoff schematics, that last upthrust should not go higher than $80,000. So it'll be very obvious to me if we do launch out to the upside through those liquidity zones and we don't find resistance within there, then the thesis is, yeah, we're going higher. Now, does that mean we're going to go to $300,000? No, of course not. We will have to take it day by day and figure out when that sentiment returns to the market, that euphoria, when we do see those meme coins skyrocketing. It should be pretty obvious, when we do see these topping structures on the altcoin market, that sort of thing, if Bitcoin were to play out in that scenario. Again, we're not trying to predict where price is going to go. We just want to react to the market and have a plan for different scenarios that are possible. But back to shorter term timeframes here, we do find that we're getting resistance on the bottom side of this channel that we have been respecting very cleanly. That's also the 618 as we talked about, also the value area low of a previous month within here. So we do have a lot of confluence for resistance. And looking over here on Trading Light, we also squeezed through the single prints to the upside. So big imbalances we're almost guaranteed to get retraced into after we found this low. Now we want to find out, assuming we do pull back down here, where is a likely bottoming point, and we can go ahead, pull swing low, swing high, golden pocket, right? Get a nice mathematical level in here. We can also see that does also align with the previous sweep level, so that could flip back into support. That does often happen a lot. The sweep level is all the way back here from our previous lows. Let me actually get that right on the dot there. You see back at $60,112 over here on Binance. This is a big level that can get flipped into support right within here, as well as we have a lot of literal support in the order books right now, pushing up all the way to current price. We see a lot of these 500 Bitcoin walls within here on price. They go all the way down to around the 786. You have kind of two batches of orders. These more aggressive buyers above the 382, and then you have these buyers looking to catch the lows here below the golden pocket. So a lot of literal support in the order books right now, and I would not be surprised with all these buyers if we do just kind of continue to march on up here, and that's what we want to see. We want to see us get through this golden pocket so we can flip it into support, signaling we will squeeze up to all-time highs, which is still my base case. I still believe we are going to all-time highs. It's just instead of my base case being six figures, it's now an upthrust after distribution. But like I said, we just have to take stuff day by day. That can absolutely change, and the biggest factor I'm going to be looking at for when we get up there, assuming we do, is open interest going up or is open interest going down for the move up? Because if it is just an upthrust after distribution, what we should see is nothing but a short squeeze up to the all-time highs, and once we run out of the fuel from these shorts, we will then go ahead and crash at that point, because that's just what's likely to happen if we don't see that buying pressure all the way up. So if open interest is going down as price is going up, that tells me there are more shorts closing than longs opening, and that is a signal that there is no bullish continuation and that a top coming in after grabbing that liquidity is the most likely scenario. Whereas if we move up here while grabbing all that liquidity and we see open interest going up as well, that tells me there's bullish continuation to the upside, or even potentially, it could just be shorts opening. We got about CVD too. If CVD is going down while price is going up with open interest, that would indicate we have shorts opening, right? But the shorts are not on the correct side of the market, and they are inevitably going to get squeezed to the upside. So if we did see shorts opening while price is going up, we just got to wait for these shorts to close. The top will not come in until open interest dumps. So if we did see this happen, you'd probably see shorts start closing at all-time highs, and then you'd see a quick pop here on Bitcoin, a complete vertical run maybe to $100,000, and then those shorts would finally be closed. And once you see the capitulations in open interest, that's when your top does come in. So that's the number one thing I'm going to be looking at. Is open interest going down or is open interest going up? Assuming we make our move up here to $75,000, and even we'll be watching it for just any retraces coming in here, such as right now, do we have open interest going up or going down? And right now it's really neither. You can see open interest is just pretty flat in here. We have shorts opening, we have shorts closing, we have longs opening, we have longs closing. It's pretty 50-50 within this range, so not too much to go off of as far as order flow is concerned, and that's why we're just kind of watching the levels, seeing if Bitcoin can in fact flip that golden pocket into support. All right, enough with Bitcoin. Let's get onto these altcoins. What did I discover when looking at the altcoin charts? What do we need to be watching out for? What are some possibilities, and what can we plan for with these if-then scenarios? Well, if we go ahead and look at where total 3 is, we can see that we have swept these lows to the downside. We have held these lows beautifully, and we are starting to come up here, making higher highs, higher lows on our local time frames. And I do believe, like I stated in my last video, at the beginning of the altcoin season is upon us, at least the second phase of the altcoin season, the second wave. I do believe there's a good chance the biggest wave of our altcoin season already kind of happened around February, right? We did see an altcoin season here at the start of 2024, and I don't really expect anything bigger than that for this altcoin season, but I do think it could be an entire replication of that parabola we had to the upside, and I do think there's just as good amount of gains to happen within here, even if we do not make an all-time high on total 3, assuming Bitcoin goes into upthrust after distribution and we don't go past $80,000. These are some levels to be watching out for on the altcoin market. Previous bull market range, value area highs, as well as point of control. We do see the point of control sitting right at the macro 618, as well as our value area highs sitting just above the golden pocket, right around that 75786, which are big levels to be watching out for. And assuming we do get up there, this is still going to be an epic rally for the altcoin season, and you can see it would be pretty much a replication of this move we had within here. And I do think it's a very likely scenario for this to happen. It will capitulate all the bears while at the same time not giving the bulls the prices they want. I do think a lot of people would get wrong-footed if we do come up here into the retracements and then fall over from there, and it is a very likely thing to happen, especially if Bitcoin doesn't go to 6 figures plus. If Bitcoin can go to 6 figures, okay, yeah, maybe the value area high just gets flipped into support and we go on an epic rally and we have this crazy super cycle. But just based on where the S&P is and where the dollar is, I don't think we have too much time left in this market. The Fed's going to cut. Historically, we don't last too long after the Fed does cut. Unemployment's continuing up. I wouldn't expect that super cycle to really happen, but it's always a possibility. So if we do just launch through this stuff, then hey, I mean, clear skies, right? We got support below us, and as long as this doesn't flip back into resistance, then I will not be selling on a break of these volume levels, but I will plan to sell if we do see, euphoria in the markets coming up into these, and this is a very likely place to top out on the altcoin market, in my opinion. This is on total 3, though. What about others, the rest of the altcoins? And we do see a very similar thing here. Sweep of the lows right into the weekly 50 EMA, which is a very big support level. So holding this is actually pretty bullish. But once again, we have big resistance right on the 7.5 and just above the 7.86 here on our others chart here from these previous bull market range value area highs. But, assuming we get up to these levels, that will actually create support below us. So I'm not saying if we reject off this, it's just game over. We could then go ahead and flip the golden pocket back into support. So that's something to be watching out for. But what's nice is you can go ahead and sell here, or at least de-risk there. And if you see this flipping into support, you just get back into the markets. So, that's possible. And then there's also something else that's possible that I forgot to mention, and this is your most bearish scenario, is that this value area low is something we have been watching on the charts for quite some time. Flipping this value area low into support back here was my signal that, hey, altcoin season is going to start right now. And I was very convinced we were going to target the value area high afterwards, because you backtest value area low, you're most likely to target value area high. But we did go ahead and roll over and break below, and we are still sitting below the value area low. So we got to be cautious. We got to make sure we can actually flip this back into support. There is always the chance this gets flipped into resistance, and this would be a case where Bitcoin does get rejected at these big resistance levels up here, at the sweep levels, the liquidity levels. If Bitcoin cannot get through this stuff, if we do in fact, let's say, come up here and roll over at these levels, and this becomes your last high for Bitcoin, then a rejection of this value area low is what would probably happen in that scenario. We have the same, levels on total 3 to be watching out for as well, right? We're below the value area low. We don't want to see this get rejected, and that is your worst case scenario on Bitcoin and the altcoin market. So we got to keep that in the back of our head. We don't want to just be lying to ourselves if we do see the charts turning bearish. So just make sure to be watching out for that. But as I've continually said on this channel, the most amount of liquidity is still sitting to the upside, especially now after grabbing that $60,000 level. I do think it is very probable to magnet all the way up here to the $72,000 to $76,000 level that you are seeing on the screen right now. And with that being said, if you have any questions about anything I talked about in this video, or just want to join the community for this channel, link to my Discord is in the description down below. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.